What if there was a podcast that could answer your questions in relation to data and digitalization of the energy sector, a source of information featuring guests from energy utilities, associations, solution providers, and the academia? What if this podcast is already here? It's called Datatopia and will complement Enlit Europe's data series with a focus on topics like ownership, policy, security, new technologies, ethics, and digitalization. If you're interested in these topics, then you're in the right place. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Datatopia podcast. My name is Areti Ntaradimou, and I'll be your host. I'm pleased to introduce today's guests, Ms. Lorena Skiljan, partner at Nobilegroup, and Mr. Peter Gonitzer, CEO and partner at Nobilegroup, a group of top-tier managers and serial entrepreneurs with strong backgrounds in the energy sector, among other sectors. Lorena, Peter, thank you very much for joining me in this first, hopefully of many, Datatopia podcast episodes. And let me ask you the first question. I know that both of you have a strong background in the energy sector. Both of you were working for Wien Energy, the largest DSO in Austria, and both of you decided to leave it in order to create together a startup. And I must add here that, Peter, you were actually the managing director of the DSO.
Yeah.
What made you take that decision and go forward with it?
Yeah, Areti, thank you for this really good question. We are often asked that question, of course. For us, it was about 1.5 years ago, the situation that we see the great new opportunities in the energy markets and see the changes coming up with distributed energy systems, and had the feeling that it is very difficult to realize in the world of a traditional energy company, energy utility. So we said to each other, we have to make a change. We have to get in a different structure to make use of these new opportunities, to build all these decentralized energy plants, assets, systems, microgrids, and so on, in order to enable a real change in the Austrian energy world. The problem is regarding traditional energy utilities that they all have really good cash flows in their original business, and so they have problems to get themselves prepared to cannibalize a little bit these good cash flows and to design new products and services for decentralized systems and for the customers. But maybe Lorena, you may add something to that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And Areti, thank you once again for the invitation to the podcast. So as Peter already said, we really strongly believe in a transition of the energy system from the centralized one towards a distributed one. And just to put it very quickly to the point, even if the utilities, the traditional one, see this development or this transition and to some extent want to be the part of it, it was just too slow for us. We really strongly believe this will happen. This will be as some other industries already change. And if you think how normal today Booking.com is or Airbnb, we strongly believe that in some years distributed energy systems will be the normal thing, how we produce energy, how we use energy, how we deal with the energy, how we also how the customer will become an active part of these energy systems. And we want to be a part of it, and we actually want to build up these systems together with the customer. So it was at some point it was very clear for us that the way that we want to be the part of this transition with our knowledge, with our networks, and with everything what we do and what we live for in our business life is not going to be possible to do it within a utility. So, and that's why we took this step, and we're really happy about it.
Yeah, it's a bold step, if I may say so, but it makes total sense the way you explained it. And building up to what you already mentioned about the utilities and the energy transition, what would be the first thing that a DSO or a TSO should do in order to adapt to the new market dynamics, according to you guys, and especially as far as the digitizing of the energy sector is concerned, and of course the new reality with the pandemic and the new dynamics. Lorena, first to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, in my opinion, as I also observe it within the 7 years within the utility, all these guys are very, very infrastructure orientated. They used to do like hardcore things, big things, and the new system will be very small scaled. Each customer will not be only a user. It will have multiple and different roles. So actually what I can say to any utility and also to any DSO, with DSO is a little bit a different story, but DSOs and utilities, customer orientation is what you need. And if you really for real go to the customer and accept what he wants and how the system can develop, then this is what I would say to them, because even if they think they are customer orientated, they are not involving and including customers in their business models. They are still developing business models on their own, and they're providing them to the customers, and we are going in a completely we will have the system where customer and the utilities needs to have a really daily exchange of action, of activities, of opinions, of wishes, of needs, of whatsoever. So this is a completely change in mindset, actually, how I provide my services or how do I do and deal with my business. Yes.
So basically, Lorena, putting the consumer, the customer, in the center of the utility, let's say, and this is
exactly.
Yeah.
We are talking about that already for years, and prosumer as a word is already like for years have been used. But to put the customer into the center means something completely different than to try to see him for the first time. It really needs to be that I'm developing my services around the customer and not I'm trying to understand what customers want and still developing services on my own.
Exactly.
So, yes.
However, and Peter, I'm coming to you now. This is a model that more or less tech giants like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, that you mentioned earlier, Lorena, already have accomplished. They have a kind of relationship with their clients, with the customer. So my question to you, Peter, is how threatened are the already existent utilities from tech giants like Amazon and Microsoft and Google, etc.?
Yeah, I totally agree to Lorena regarding the customer centricity. That's really very important, and I also totally agree to you, Areti, that these I call them tech giants, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and so on, that they all have developed a special relationship to their customers, and for this reason, of course, they are potential competitors. For this existing utilities. I also see other categories of new competitors like the automotive sector and maybe also property developers.
Exactly.
But I think it's very important that energy utilities get a new form of conversation, dialogue, exchange with the customers, so that they really change their mindset. This sounds so simple, but it is so difficult to realize it, having all those old structures, legacy systems, and so on. So I think the really most important point is to have a real focus on customer related systems and conversations to make it really easy to handle that and to get in close touch with the customer. It's really important. Yeah? And for this reason, I think it's also a good step to focus on decentralized products and services, so that you have the chance to get into a community with the customer, not only a platform orientated approach, but building a community with the customer, talking about new products and services, maybe also to do some exchange and discussions with the customer by developing the products. I think that's the future, and it brings the energy utilities closer to the customer, and I think that's a really good chance for them to compete with the tech giants who have already established a good relationship, but who are more or less not as close as a utility can be in the end. So I think there's a chance to make it, but they really have to deal with it in the next years.
I understand completely your point, Peter. I agree. I also think decentralization is a huge issue too, although I've heard, especially from some TSOs, that centralization might be the solution and not vice versa. And this is perhaps a conversation for a future podcast. But speaking on customers, I would like to say that, well, consumers create data. And there's a lot of discussion on data nowadays, especially after the strategy for data that the European Commission has published. So my question is simple. Who owns the data, in your opinion? Who should own the data? And what can we do? How far can we go in order to protect our data?
Well, Areti, I have a little bit a bigger opinion on this data, but we're also talking about that a lot of times. Data are the future assets, in my opinion. So they will be also, in the future, we will be monetizing data, not only the companies, but also the consumers, the customers, the one who actually owns the data. So for me, it's actually very, very, very clear. We just need to come there, but it's very clear. The data is owned by the customer, by the consumer, or by the one whose data is picked on, like to put it like that. And in the future, the data will be worth something, like some amount of money, and we will. Then as a consumer or as a customer, I will decide if I want to sell my data or if I will provide somebody an access to my data to get some money. So it's the same when I have an asset. If somebody wants to have my asset, it cannot have it for free. It needs to, give something in exchange. It can be money, it could be services, it could be whatever, but we will have a scale, how much is it worth? And this is the problem with the data in today's world, that we actually, the customers in the first place, we are not aware of what are our data actually worth. So we need to roll the system new. First of all, we need to know which data is how much worth. So this is a clear commercial thing, in my opinion. We need to know what you can do with this data, how you can monetize the data, to whom you can sell it, how you can sell it, what the companies are doing with the data. And then you can say, okay, this type of data has this word, this word, this word. And then I can, as a customer, I can do with my data from that point on, the same as I do with all my assets that I own as a consumer. I can rent my car, I can rent my boat, I can sell it, I can buy it. So it's going to be a good that we will exchange. And then we will also have lesser data protection problems, because it's going to be a good that we are exchanging and dealing with. But we are still not there. So this is my opinion on data. Maybe Peter wants to say something.
Peter, before you add to this conversation, I must say that I was recently watching on Netflix an episode on data, and I saw that Estonia basically has solved most of the problems that we are discussing right now, and maybe it is something we need to look into. But Peter, I also want to ask you a little bit about the algorithms that help exchange data. I mean, we know that some of them can be biased. They are being coded, they are being created by people, and people are biased. We have our opinions. Some of us, unfortunately, are racist or misogynist or whatever. How do we tackle that?
Yeah, I think this is really a huge issue which you are asking for. Of course, all these computers and machines are programmed by human beings, so they really react maybe in the same way as the human being is thinking. And for this reason, we have really to be very, very careful, especially in the field of energy, because due to the nature of the energy business, with the high value of security of supply, really should be very careful, because people and customers have really a lot of trust in our products and services. They really trust us because we in the sector are able to secure security of supply, and so that there are no blackouts and things like that, or almost no blackouts. And for this reason, we should have the same quality of product services also in the handling of data and handling of programs. And we should really be careful that there is no kind of biased or things like that, or racist things. And we should really give everyone the same opportunity in the distributed energy systems, so that everyone gets the same kind of connection to the grid, gets the same kind of service of energy products and grid service and things like that. And there are almost no, only little, if any, restriction to grid access and things like that. I think that's the most important thing, because very often it's not so easy to get a grid connection at a fair price for a new decentralized energy asset, for example, a PV system or things like that. And we should really avoid that there is some kind of discrimination in this sector.
Perfect. I have one more question, and it is for both of you. And I would like you to answer it, I don't know, as shortly as possible from one side, but on the other side, let your imagination, let's say, go wild. So if there was one thing that you could magically change overnight in the energy sector, what would that be and why? Lorena?
I'll start. Okay. Well, except for the Tesla generator, which would be great, but I think it's not possible due to the physics or something like that. I'm not a technical guy, so I don't know, but you know, well, if you would ask me like this, and a short answer, no monopoly and no oligopoly anymore in the energy sector.
Perfect.
It's really a utopic.
I couldn't agree more. Peter?
Yeah, I have another very simple point. It's really very simple, because it would be magic overnight if the things which are presented and discussed are also implemented on the next day or very soon. So just do it. This would be magic. I often see developments where people and managers are talking about things but doing really different things, and all the good ideas only PR and marketing, and they are going on with all the old business ideas, and new ones are not realized. So I think it would be magic just to do that, what we say, and to realize new ideas.
Peter, to be honest, I think that magic wouldn't cut it for this one. It needs divine intervention, and I don't know if there is such a thing. That's a little bit too much. This was it from me. My questions are answered. Thank you for that. I don't know if you have anything to add. No? Okay, then
no.
I would like.
We are just looking forward to a new energy systems and to, you know, more consumer and customer participation in the future.
Perfect. That's a perfect thing to close with. So I would like to thank today's guests, Lorena and Peter, for sharing their valuable insights with us. I'd like to remind you that a recording of this episode of the Datatopia podcast and the future episodes will be available on demand on the Enlit Europe website. Join us for another podcast episode in 2 weeks, as well as for the first Data Hub series episode on interoperability on the 31st of August. Thank you for joining, and until next time, stay safe and have fun.